"Please, mighty human, my sister was taken. Let's rescue her together," pleaded the little girl. The shuttle glided silently through the starport, its engines humming softly. The city below sprawled like a sea of lights, stretching to the horizon, neon signs flickering in alien scripts. The little girl sat clutching her satchel, eyes wide, staring at the towering human beside her. She had been terrified before, running through dark alleys, hiding from those who had taken her sister. But now, sitting beside someone so strong and confident, a glimmer of hope returned. The human glanced down at her, noticing the mix of fear and determination. There was something in her eyes, a spark that told him she wouldn't give up. "We'll find her," he said simply. His voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of someone who had faced impossible odds and survived. The girl nodded, wiping her tears, her small hands tightening around her satchel. "Yes, we must," she whispered, her voice trembling. Their first stop was the edge of the asteroid belt, a maze of rocks and drifting debris. The kidnappers had been careful, but they always left a trail. Humans had a way of seeing patterns where others saw chaos. The human pulled out a small device, glowing faintly with soft blue light. It scanned the surrounding space, detecting faint energy signatures, residual heat trails, and unusual electromagnetic pulses. "They passed through here," he said, pointing to a faint streak that only a human mind would notice. The little girl leaned forward, curiosity overcoming her nerves. "How do you know?" she asked, eyes wide. "They left signs," he replied. "Little things, a broken satellite, a tiny scrape on a rock, even the way the dust drifts. Most aliens wouldn't see them, humans notice." Her eyes sparkled with admiration. She had heard stories about humans before, but seeing one in action, someone who could read space like a book, made her heart beat faster. "Can I help?" she asked eagerly. The human smiled faintly. "You already are. Keep your eyes open." Sometimes the smallest mind sees the biggest clues. For hours, they moved through the asteroid field. Rocks of all sizes floated around them, some larger than buildings, some barely bigger than a pebble. Each collision, each shift could spell danger. The human maneuvered the shuttle with precise control, threading between massive asteroids with ease. He made it look simple, but the little girl knew from experience that one wrong move could destroy the shuttle and them both. At one point, a sudden tremor ran through the shuttle. The girl screamed, gripping the seat. The human's hands were steady on the controls, eyes scanning every inch of space around them. "Nothing to worry about," he said calmly, even as a jagged asteroid grazed the shuttle's hull. Sparks flew, but the shuttle held firm. The little girl's heart pounded. Humans were incredible, she thought, able to face danger without fear. After navigating the belt, they reached a derelict space station floating in the middle of nowhere. It had been abandoned for years, left to drift in orbit around a dying star. Sensors picked up faint energy readings, something alien and unnatural. The human shut down the shuttle's engines and floated toward the station in a small pod. The girl followed, clinging to his side. Inside the station, the air was cold and stale. Broken panels hung from the walls, and cables swayed like vines in a long-forgotten jungle. Shadows danced under their flashlights. The human's eyes scanned the room, moving with calculated precision. "They were here," he said, pointing to a scorch mark on the floor. "Someone dragged something heavy through this corridor. That's recent." The girl looked around, seeing the broken furniture and flickering lights. Her stomach twisted at the thought that her sister had been here, somewhere in the cold emptiness of space, trapped and scared. She clenched her fists. "We have to save her," she said, her voice trembling but firm. The human nodded. "We will, but first we need information." They moved deeper into the station. The human used small scanning devices, picking up faint signs of alien technology. He tapped a control panel, sending a pulse through the system. Lights flickered, and a map of the station's interior appeared on his device. Hidden rooms, energy cells, and storage areas glowed in soft red. "They've modified the station," he said. "It's not just abandoned. It's a base. They're hiding something or someone." The little girl shivered but pressed on. She had to be brave. Every step they took brought them closer to her sister. They followed the energy readings, moving through dark corridors and empty halls. At one point, they found a wall panel slightly ajar. Inside, small capsules floated in a grid, glowing faintly. The human examined one carefully, scanning its contents. "These are holding cells," he said. "They're used to trap living beings. Not for long-term care, but to keep them weak and controlled." Her heart raced. Could her sister be in one of these? The human looked at her, eyes serious. We need to keep moving. There may be more clues ahead. As they continued, a sudden noise echoed through the station. A metallic clang followed by footsteps. The human froze, listening carefully. They're here, he whispered. Aliens, guards, we need to hide. They ducked behind a large console. The footsteps grew louder and a group of alien figures appeared, their armor reflecting the dim light. The girl's heart pounded in her chest. The human's hand rested on a small, concealed weapon ready to act. Remember, he whispered, humans find a way when others can't. Watch and learn. The aliens passed without noticing them. The human moved silently, guiding the girl through narrow passages and ventilation shafts. Every moment was tense, every step critical. Finally, they reached a control room with screens showing various parts of the station. One monitor flickered, showing a small chamber with a figure inside. The little girl gasped. Her sister. She could see her, asleep but alive, trapped in a glowing cage. The human put a hand on her shoulder. There she is, we've found her. Tears welled up in the girl's eyes. Relief and hope surged through her, but the human's eyes were focused, scanning the screens. We need a plan, he said. Rushing in will get us caught. We need to be smart. Observe, wait, and strike when the moment is right. For the next several hours, they watched the station. The human analyzed guard patterns, energy flows, and security protocols. The girl helped where she could, noting when doors opened and closed, when guards rotated. Slowly, a plan formed. Humans were not just strong, they were patient, clever, and resourceful. Finally, the human turned to the girl. We strike at dawn, he said. We take advantage of the shift change. We move fast, get your sister, and get out before they know we're here. The girl nodded, determination replacing fear. She had seen how humans worked, how they could turn impossible situations into victories. And now she would be part of it. Together, they would rescue her sister. As the station rotated slowly in the void, the two waited, preparing for the dangerous task ahead. The human's presence was steadying, his experience a shield against the unknown. And the little girl, small but brave, had learned that courage was not the absence of fear. It was acting despite it. The first step was taken, but the hardest part lay ahead. The rescue would not be easy, but with human ingenuity and unbreakable spirit, nothing was impossible. They were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them together. The shuttle hovered silently above the planet's surface, a swirling storm of orange and green gases churning below. The fortress loomed ahead like a jagged mountain in the sky, its walls gleaming faintly under the light of distant suns. The human and the little girl gazed at it, feeling its size and menace. This was the place where her sister was held. The human's expression was calm, but his eyes were sharp, studying every angle, every weak point. We go in now, but quietly, he said. One mistake and we'll alert the whole fortress. The girl nodded, gripping the straps of her small pack. Fear pressed against her chest, but it was matched by determination. Her sister's face floated in her mind, tired and scared, and she clenched her fists. She would not fail. The human piloted a small landing pod, descending through the storm with uncanny precision. Lightning streaked across the clouds, illuminating the jagged spires of the fortress. Most aliens would have panicked in such turbulence, but humans thrived on challenges. The pod landed silently in a hidden alcove near the fortress's outer wall. They climbed out, moving low and fast, shadows blending with the dark metal of the walls. The human pointed toward a side entrance. There, maintenance hatch, least guarded, and it leads directly inside. Stay close and follow my lead. The girl nodded and ran lightly beside him, her small size making her nearly invisible in the shadows. The hatch was secured with a keypad and alien runes that glowed faintly. The human examined it, muttering under his breath as his fingers worked swiftly. After a few moments, it clicked open. The human gestured for her to enter first, and she slipped inside. The interior of the fortress was cold and mechanical. Pipes ran along the ceilings, and the floor hummed with energy. Lights flickered above them, casting long, angular shadows. The girl's stomach twisted. It was darker and more frightening than the station they had explored, but she had to be brave. They moved slowly, the human leading the way. Sensors picked up faint signals of life deeper within the fortress. Each step brought them closer to her sister, but also deeper into danger. They passed storage rooms filled with strange equipment, laboratories with alien machinery humming quietly, and corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. The human's hand never left his weapon, but he moved silently, almost like he was part of the shadows themselves. They rounded a corner and froze. 3 alien guards walked toward them, their armor glinting under the dim lights. The human crouched low, motioning for the girl to stay behind him. She held her breath, heart hammering. Humans could fight in ways others could not predict, and the human was about to show her exactly that. As the guards passed, the human moved with impossible speed. He flipped over one, grabbed another by the arm, and twisted him silently into a corner. The third guard barely had time to react before he was knocked unconscious with a precise strike to the neck. The girl's eyes widened. Humans really could do incredible things, she thought. They continued through the fortress, moving carefully, avoiding patrols, and using every shadow to their advantage. At one point, they came to a large chamber filled with glowing energy cells. The human examined them, nodding. "This is where they power the security systems. We'll need to disable this to reach your sister safely." He worked quickly, using a small device to interfere with the energy flows. Sparks danced across the panels as systems shut down one by one. The girl watched, fascinated, as he manipulated the alien technology with ease. He glanced at her and smiled faintly. "See, sometimes brains are more powerful than brawn." Finally, they reached a corridor that led to the holding chambers. The air grew colder, and the humming of energy systems was louder. Through a small window, the girl saw her sister inside a cage, eyes wide as she slept. Relief and fear mixed in her chest. Her sister was alive, but still trapped. She pressed closer to the human. "We have to hurry," she whispered. The human nodded. "We strike now." He opened the cage with a device that bypassed the locks silently. Her sister stirred, blinking in confusion before recognition hit her face. She whispered her thanks, her voice small but strong. The little girl took her hand, holding it tightly. "We're here." "You're safe now," she said, her voice shaking but full of courage. No sooner had they freed her than alarms blared throughout the fortress. Energy cells that had been disabled were coming back online faster than expected. Alien guards poured into the hallways, their weapons glowing with lethal intent. The human's eyes narrowed. "Time to move, fast!" He grabbed the girl and her sister, leading them through winding corridors. Shots rang out, sparks flying as laser blasts hit the walls around them. The human moved with incredible speed, avoiding attacks and using the environment to their advantage. He flipped over a railing, ducked behind a pillar, and rolled under incoming fire. The sisters followed, hearts pounding, but their faith in him never wavered. At one point, they reached a large chamber with a bioengineered enforcer blocking the exit. It was massive, towering over even the human, with muscles bulging under thick armor and glowing red eyes. Its roar echoed through the corridors, a sound that would freeze most beings in fear. The girl froze, but the human did not. He assessed the enforcer quickly, noticing its slow movements and reliance on brute strength. Humans had something aliens often lacked: adaptability. He grabbed a loose pipe from the floor, swinging it at the enforcer's legs, forcing it to stumble. The sisters watched, awestruck, as he dodged massive strikes, weaving around the creature with unmatched agility. The enforcer struck again, smashing the floor where they had just been. The human rolled aside, grabbed a control panel, and used it to release a surge of electricity that stunned the creature momentarily. The sisters gasped. He moved like water, unpredictable and unstoppable. Finally, he leapt onto the enforcer's back, striking precise points that caused it to collapse, unconscious but alive. They didn't stop to rest. The human led the girls toward the exit, the fortress shaking around them as alarms blared and security systems went haywire. They reached the shuttle just as reinforcements arrived. The human fired a few warning shots to clear a path, then guided the sisters inside. The shuttle lifted off, leaving the fortress behind. The little girl held her sister close, tears streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "You saved her." The human nodded, eyes scanning the skies for any pursuers. "We did, but this isn't over yet. We need to get out of the storm and back to safe space." They navigated through the gas giant's turbulent atmosphere, dodging lightning and massive winds. The human's hands were steady, eyes sharp, as he piloted through one of the most dangerous environments in the galaxy. The sisters clung to each other, trusting him completely. Humans thrived where others would fail, using intelligence, courage, and instinct to survive. Finally, they emerged above the storm, stars shining clearly once more. The little girl looked at her sister, then at the human. Gratitude filled her heart. "Thank you," she said, voice trembling. "I don't know what we would have done without you." The human smiled faintly. "You were brave, too. Humans aren't the only ones who can be heroes. Courage comes in many forms." As they set course for a safe planet, the fortress disappeared behind them, a looming reminder of the danger they had faced. But the sisters were together, alive and free. And the human, mighty, clever, unstoppable, had proven once again why humans were feared and respected across the stars. The journey back would be long, but the first step, the rescue, was complete. The little girl held her sister close, eyes shining with hope, and whispered, "We really can do anything." The human glanced at them, a faint smile on his face. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't just in weapons or technology. It was in courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up when everything seemed impossible. And today, in the heart of an alien fortress, that strength had shone brighter than any star. The shuttle shuddered as it left the atmosphere of the gas giant, the storm below still raging like a furious sea. Lightning struck and twisted through the clouds, but the human piloted with perfect control, dodging and weaving through the violent turbulence. The sisters huddled together, holding tight to each other, their small bodies trembling from fear and relief. The little girl glanced at her sister, whose face was pale but slowly lighting up with hope. The human didn't speak, his eyes scanning the path ahead, calculating every movement and every possible danger. For a moment, everything seemed calm, but the fortress behind them had not given up. Alarms had been raised, and the fortress's automated defenses activated. Energy pulses and plasma beams shot into the skies, seeking any escapees. The human adjusted the shuttle's trajectory, narrowly avoiding a pulse that could have torn the vessel apart. Sparks flew along the hull, and the sisters screamed, gripping the seats. The human's hands were steady, his calmness a shield against the fear that could have paralyzed anyone else. The little girl's voice trembled. "They're following us." The human's eyes didn't leave the instruments. "They are, but we'll lose them." Humans always find a way when others think it's impossible. He activated a series of countermeasures, releasing decoys that emitted false energy signals. The fortress weapons fired again, striking the decoys and missing the shuttle by mere meters. The sisters gasped, and the little girl clung to her sister's arm. "You're amazing," she whispered. The human didn't respond. There was no time for praise. Every second counted. He maneuvered the shuttle into a narrow canyon between floating rock spires, where the fortress beams could not reach. The rocks loomed over them like giants, casting shadows that shifted with the light from the distant sun. The shuttle scraped past the walls of stone, sparks flying from a few minor collisions, but it held together. The fortress had deployed pursuit drones, small, fast machines that darted through the air like angry insects. The human tapped a button, and the shuttle released a cloud of reflective particles that confused the drone's sensors. One by one, they crashed into the rocks or collided with each other. The sisters watched in awe as the human's cleverness and foresight saved them again. "We're almost clear," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Stay close and keep your heads down." The shuttle shot into open space, leaving the gas giant behind. The fortress loomed in the distance, a massive silhouette against the stormy clouds. Its energy weapons still charged, preparing for another attack. The sisters looked at it, fear mixed with awe. This was where they had faced their greatest challenge, and now they were alive because of the human's courage and intelligence. The human set a course for a nearby asteroid belt, a natural maze that would hide them from pursuit. "This will slow them down," he said, "and give us time to think." Inside the belt, they navigated carefully between massive rocks. The human's skill was unmatched. He could predict how each asteroid would drift and move, adjusting the shuttle's course in split seconds. The sisters watched, hearts racing, as the shuttle dodged obstacles that would have destroyed any other vessel. But the danger was not over. The fortress had sent a new threat, massive plasma tendrils that shot from the surface of the gas giant, extending into space, seeking anything that tried to escape. The humans saw them in time and dove the shuttle between two asteroids, letting the tendrils pass harmlessly overhead. Sparks flew, and the shuttle rattled violently, but it survived. The sisters clung to each other, mouths open in disbelief. "You're amazing," the little girl said again, voice trembling. "How can one human do all this?" The human allowed a small smile. "Humans are stubborn," he said, "and we never give up." As they moved deeper into the asteroid belt, the sisters helped where they could. The little girl pointed out paths the human hadn't noticed, gaps between the asteroids that were just wide enough for the shuttle to pass. Her sister helped monitor sensors, watching for energy signals from the fortress. Together, the three formed a team, each playing a role in their survival. Suddenly, the human's scanner beeped loudly. "Incoming!" he shouted. Three large pursuit ships from the fortress emerged from the shadows, moving fast and ready to attack. The sisters screamed as the shuttle shook violently under enemy fire. The human's eyes narrowed. "They think they can catch us. They don't know humans fight smarter than they expect." He pulled a lever, activating the shuttle's stealth system. The hull shimmered, bending light and making them nearly invisible. The pursuit ships fired blindly, missing by meters. Using the chaos, the human dove into the densest part of the asteroid belt. Rocks scraped the shuttle, shields flared, but they moved faster and more unpredictably than the pursuers. One of the fortress ships tried to ram them, but the human anticipated it. He spun the shuttle sharply, causing the enemy vessel to crash into an asteroid. Another fired energy bolts that struck nearby rocks, exploding in brilliant flashes of light. The little girls clung together, hearts pounding. "We're going to make it," whispered the younger one, but the final pursuit ship was fast, smarter than the others. It matched their moves, closing in rapidly. The human's eyes darted between the instruments and the asteroid paths. "Hold on," he said calmly. "We're going to outsmart this one." He activated a magnetic pulse, pulling a cluster of asteroids toward the enemy ship. The fortress vessel slammed into the rocks, sending shards flying in all directions. Sparks and debris filled the void, but the shuttle sailed through untouched. The sisters cheered softly, a mix of relief and amazement. The human didn't relax yet. "We need to get farther from this area. The fortress will not give up so easily." He pushed the shuttle to maximum speed, weaving through the belt, carefully avoiding collisions. Slowly, the dangerous pursuit and attacks faded behind them. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly ahead, a maze they now controlled. Finally, they reached open space, far from immediate danger. The sisters collapsed into their seats, exhausted but safe. Tears flowed freely, both from fear and relief. The little girl hugged her sister tightly. "We made it," she whispered, voice shaking. "We really made it." The human looked at them with calm eyes. "Not completely safe yet," he said, "but we've survived the hardest part. The rest is just getting home." They set a course for a neutral planet, far from the fortress's influence. The human allowed a moment of quiet, letting the sisters recover. He watched the stars, thinking about the events they had survived together. Aliens might have advanced technology, immense strength, and cunning plans, but humans had something else: resourcefulness, courage, and the ability to turn impossible situations into victories. The sisters looked at him with gratitude, their eyes shining. "You're not just a hero," the little girl said softly. "You're amazing, thank you." The human smiled faintly, looking at the stars ahead. "Humans don't do it for praise," he said. "We do it because we have to, because it matters. And because sometimes hope is all that stands between life and death." As the shuttle moved through quiet space, the sisters held hands, slowly relaxing. The danger of the fortress and its storms was behind them for now. The little girl looked at her sister, still pale but smiling, and whispered, "We'll never forget this. We'll never forget what humans can do." The human didn't answer, only watched the stars. He had done his job, and more importantly, he had shown the sisters the strength of human courage and ingenuity. No enemy, no fortress, no storm could stand against a determined human mind when it mattered most. As the shuttle approached the safe planet, the sisters knew that their lives had changed forever. They had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and survived. And the mighty human who had saved them had proven that humans were not just strong, but unstoppable when they chose to act. The planet's atmosphere glowed softly ahead, a warm light after the chaos of the fortress and the gas giant storm. They would land safely, recover, and the sisters would be free. But the story of this rescue, of courage, bravery, and human brilliance would live on. The little girl held her sister close, whispered promises to never let anything happen again, and looked at the human with eyes full of respect and hope. The human piloted the shuttle steadily, each movement precise, each calculation perfect. Danger might still exist in the universe, but humans thrived where others feared. They adapted, they endured, and they never gave up. And today, they had proven it again. The shuttle entered the planet's atmosphere, descending slowly toward a safe landing site. The sisters gazed out at the view, watching the horizon glow, feeling the warmth of safety and relief. The human smiled faintly, allowing himself a rare moment of satisfaction. They had faced the impossible and survived. And as the shuttle touched down softly, the little girl whispered one last time, "Thank you, mighty human, you really are incredible." The human nodded. "Remember this," he said quietly. "Courage, cleverness, and determination, that is what makes humans unstoppable."